Evening, everyone. Starship Critic here with my contractually obligated video on Starship IFT-2. The first one got a lot of attention, so I'm going to do this again. So, I am the Starship Critic, by the way, so I got to do this. So for IFT-1, my verdict on that was colossal failure, because it was. What does IFT-2 say? Well, if you follow me on Twitter, I said partial failure, but I'm retracting that based on what I know now. I'm putting this as a failure. And I'll explain why. So for Super Heavy had all 33 Raptors fire, lift off, and it made it to hot staging, which was pretty hot. And then during the flip and then boost back, it failed. They tried to relight the Raptors from what it looks like, and then FTS had to be activated. The theory I've seen floated around, started by Scott Manley, was that the hot staging caused some significant propellant slosh, and that's what caused this to happen, which would make sense for because it's like a crescent of engines actually lit instead of all of them. So if there is propellant slosh doing that, that would make sense, right? The propellant's on this side getting into those feed lines, but not this side. That makes sense, hopefully. Who knows what it could be? And again, I should note, this is obviously new. It happened Saturday morning. It's Monday night. I was busy this week. I was working on this, okay? So Super Heavy is a partial failure because if this was a customer launch, Super Heavy not being able to do boost back and landing is SpaceX's problem, not necessarily a satellite customer's problem. If Super Heavy blew up during the launch, that would be a problem because my payload would go with it, right? Like on IFT-1. So then for Starship, the upper stage, which I don't like the nomenclature for this. Just want to say that. Because Starship is both the whole launch system and the upper stage. I don't know. I really don't follow this much. Starship itself burned from that. All 6 engines fired for till 8 minutes into the flight, and then the FTS had to be activated. We don't know what that is. Apparently that was somewhere near where the throttle down and engine shutdown would have occurred. So I don't know what this is. Again, my expertise is not in turbo machinery, but if it's an engine failure, it could be the fact that they're trying to spool down the engines, and I guess they don't like that. Who knows? Maybe it's an in-flight behavior that they couldn't catch on the ground. Don't know. I heard somewhere that there was a bit of a velocity underperformance for Starship, so that could have been an issue or a symptom. I also heard that there was low liquid oxygen. Now, I don't know if that was for IFT-1 or IFT-2. My brain is scrambled at the moment. It's late at night, okay? It's 8 p.m., which is way past my bedtime. If it's low liquid oxygen, one possibility is a structural failure in the liquid oxygen feed lines. An unknown resonance got picked up in flight from all the behaviors of the engines, the vibrations and all that, and it broke a line. There's an instance of this that happened on Apollo 6 where on the S2, for the J2 engines, there's a spark igniter for one of them that on the ground had ice form on it during engine testing, which would dampen it from vibrations, but in space, no ice formed on it, so it rang and then shattered, causing a problem. So it could be something like that. We don't know. The FAA SpaceX investigation will tell us something went wrong there. And because of this is a failure. The FTS had to be activated for both vehicles, which means they could not complete their missions. Starship, if it was carrying a customer payload, would have lost the customer payload, and the customer would have given SpaceX a good firm talking to, a good angry stare, like, why'd you lose my payload? So yeah, this is a failure. It didn't work. And I know SpaceX is already trying to do the Soviet style, but it was a success because it's staged. Cool. Staging has never been done on rockets before. Hot staging on rockets? Titan II. A lot of Soviet boosters did that. This isn't really new. So it's not working, okay? And again, yeah, SpaceX likes to play Soviet Union with their definitions of success. So if you come to the comments and saying that, SpaceX says it was a success, yeah, SpaceX doesn't admit failure. And I know you're gonna point to that Falcon 9 landing video and say, but see, yeah, those were part of the development cycle for landings that had no impact on customer payloads reaching orbit or not. So, okay, SpaceX doesn't like admitting failure. They're a very secretive company in that regard. Okay, so no, it's still a failure. It didn't work. Starship still doesn't work. Okay, And again, I know some people say, well, it launched and it made it to staging. Yeah, that's not all of the mission, though. It didn't make it to orbit. Failure. Okay? Didn't make it to Hawaii. All right, so the other thing here, the launch pad. Launch pad, of course, last time turned into a big pit. It didn't do that this time. Visibly, it worked. It seems to have worked. The real data, of course, SpaceX knows, so they probably won't tell us if there's any significant damage or not. And on the launch pad itself with the deluge system, ESG Hound has been writing about that. SpaceX is still most likely breaking the Clean Water Act, and probably, I think even in his latest blog post, talked about how SpaceX openly just admitted to breaking the law and the FAA signed off on it. Read what he has to say. I'm probably misquoting him. So another comment that's popping out is because all 39 Raptors ignited and the 33 on Super Heavy survived until staging. So that means Raptor liability has been solved, right? No, that doesn't mean that actually. It depends on what happened with Super Heavy during the engine relight and what caused the Starship failure. So Raptor liability is still unknown. And yes, visually they looked fine, but we don't know what actual performance data looks like on SpaceX's end, right? They got all the sensors and telemetry coming in. I mean, we're not going to see that, but visually they looked fine, but we don't know if they're actually reliable. And this is one launch where they've had a lot of issues with Raptor before, so jury's still out on that. There's another image floating around showing that a lot of tiles fell off Starship during the launch. That's still an issue. So for my final assessment on this, it's a failure. A much better, more useful failure than IFT-1, which still, I think, was a publicity stunt. That's my honest opinion. This one, but again, it's... So last time I talked about the Starship program as a whole, and my opinion on it still stands, is that I don't think this program is going very well. I don't know what's going on internally at SpaceX, but what I'm seeing is not promising. Again, this is the second flight of Starship, and it still doesn't work. The first stage sort of worked, but failed on its way back, and the upper stage still doesn't work. I don't know what's going on. This iterative development program really doesn't seem to be working for them. And I know they can't switch on a dime to fix it, but it doesn't seem to be working. Now, I understand doing things like hop tests of Starship to test the landing procedures. Right? They did that with Falcon 9 with their Grasshopper. That I understand. But everything else, there's a lot you can do on the ground with a computer simulation and building test articles. Building full-scale vehicles seems like a massive waste of money, especially if you're going to end up scrapping them because of a design change that you made while making it, or because the one that you flew blew up. It just doesn't seem like a very smart way of going around things. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, I'm just an outsider making commentary, but I don't know. And that's the other question I have is, how many IFTs are we really going to see for this program? Because again, it still has to re-enter and land. And that's just part of it. Can it open up there's no payload deployment system that exists for it yet. It's still a very immature system, and it's still not working. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. HLS. The news came out this week that, the numbers are exactly what came out in the GAO report. Even worse, actually, than 16 launches. So word of the wise, don't listen to armchair engineers who say that it's 4 or 8, because it's not. It's 16 plus. I'm hearing somewhere between 17 or 18 now, because apparently their boil-off mitigation system is prayer. That's what I'm hearing. Again, my stance on Starship HLS remains the same. Not a good choice. The final thing here I just want to touch on is stop being weird about this rocket. My goodness, there's so many people who talk about Starship in this weird hagiographic way. It's not going to save humanity. It isn't. It's a low Earth orbit optimized mega constellation deployer and a really bad lunar lander architecture. Okay? It's not going to save humanity. It's not going to make life multiplanetary. That's just weird. Stop. I'm going to do some videos out in the future, but just please stop being weird about this rocket. Oh, man. Wait, it's been a few days. Maybe SpaceX already knows what happened with Starship. And Elon might say too, because he loves talking about this, right? I'm going to get my phone here and just check Twitter. This is a really good joke, right? Elon's agreeing with who?